welcome to Daily Debrief from People's Dispatch. I'm Pragya. Lebanon's financial situation has just got worse. Since 2019, three-quarters of its people were plunged into poverty. We'll discuss the reasons and the latest several runs on banks in recent weeks in our episode today. We then go to Ostend, Belgium, where thousands attended Manifiesta, a two-day festival of political discussion, debates and concerts to mobilize people for goals like better healthcare. And former US President Donald Trump is charged with easement fraud, a system that allows Americans to lower their tax bills, but which Trump allegedly misused to gain millions of dollars. Every harsh aspect that defines an economic crisis currently afflicts Lebanon. It has a currency crisis, overwhelming debts it cannot repay, skyrocketing inflation, corruption in government, and falling incomes. Recent runs on banks have spotlighted a crisis that began in 2019 as it worsens. Bank depositors can withdraw the equivalent of $400 a month in Lebanese pounds, but it is too little to buy food, pay for fuel, rent, or healthcare. Families are struggling as the GDP has contracted almost 60% since 2019. Abdul brings us more details. Hi Abdul, can you tell us about the economic situation in Lebanon? What is it like for people and how severe is the crisis?
The economic situation for most of the Lebanese is really bad. As per the UN estimates, more than 80% of Lebanese are forced to live in some kind of poverty, multidimensional poverty. So you can understand the purchasing power has gone down, the inflation has risen because of the various factors. Some of them are international, of course, which we know about, but there are other local reasons as well. As per the reports, the Lebanese currency has lost its 90% of its value. So that basically has a massive impact on the purchasing power of the majority of the Lebanese. The supply of essential goods like food, medicine, oil, and other things is very much hampered. There is power cut in Lebanon for hours now. The overall economic condition, we know that since 2018-19, though it has a longer history, but particularly from 2018-19, we know that the Lebanon has a debt to GDP ratio which is beyond control according to the World Bank and other international agencies. This is the historic economic crisis in the world. So apart from that, we should also understand that Lebanon as a whole also is facing economic problems because of the war in Syria. Lebanon has a strong economic connection with Syria, and because of the war for more than a decade now, a large number of refugees are forced to migrate to Lebanon. And amidst the economic crisis which Lebanese are facing, the additional economic problems which are created by migration and refugee basically creates further economic hardships for the people. We should also understand that this is also the period of the COVID. Correct. For last 2-3 years, the Gulf economies were not doing great, where a large number of Lebanese work, and that basically multiplied the situation in the country. One more reason, which basically is emphasized by the international agencies and the economists, independent economists, is the role of the governing elite in Lebanon itself. The widespread corruption is a well-known fact in Lebanon. So there is global links responsible behind it. We have no time to go into the details, but yes, the overall inefficiency and corruption of the Lebanese political elite has also multiplied the economic situation in the country.
Right, Abdul. Abdul, before you leave, can you also talk about why there has been this banking crisis? Banks are being shut down. There's been a run on banks. Can you just describe in brief what the situation is?
Lebanese banks are under crisis for the same reasons as we talked about. Because of that, the Lebanese central bank has imposed strict withdrawal limits, and which basically further complicates the situation for the majority of the depositors who cannot withdraw the money when they really need it. So if they can't withdraw, some of the Lebanese in desperation have basically tried to enter forcefully into the banks, and threaten the bank employees to take out their own deposits. They are not the usual, what you call the bank looters, but they are the common people who are trying to get their money back from the banks by force. And that basically, the number of incidents have multiplied in last few weeks, which basically has led to quote unquote a security concern for the banks in the country. And that basically has been used as an excuse to further basically prevent the Lebanese from withdrawing their own money. So if in brief, we can say that the closure of the banks announced is primarily in the pretext of security, but is basically a way of saving the banks, as the bankers think their economy works, from kind of a large number of withdrawal, or the withdrawal, essential withdrawal, which people are doing. So in a way, this is to prevent depositors from withdrawing further.
Right, Abdul. Thanks a lot for joining us. Manifiesta 2022, the 12th edition of the two-day annual festival, was organized in the Belgian city of Ostend from September 17 to 18. It concluded with a resolve to mobilize for alternatives for the future. Organized by the Solidarity magazine and Medicine for the People, it had over 14,000 participants and around 160 events. We spoke to Anna from People's Health Movement, who was there. Anna, what's the significance of Manifiesta? What were the different aspects of these meetings and debates and discussions? What really happened there?
Well, it's an interesting event because, as most people have already heard, so there's a wave of unrest, let's call it like that, building up in Europe because of all the rising cost of living that the working class is going through. Essentially, Manifiesta is an important event because it brings together different parts of the left. So it brings together trade unions, it brings together people's associations and solidarity initiatives, and it shows how interlinked all of these are and how important of a role they can play in making society a better place together. So essentially what we have seen are discussions about the rising cost of living in Europe, with a focus on Belgium, of course, because the Belgian trade union movement was there along with the Belgian left. But we have also seen discussions about what's happening in the United Kingdom and in other parts of the world, which are going through the same kind of problems. But on the other hand, of course, there have been numerous discussions about, for example, the situation in Palestine, with a whole pillar of panels and interviews which were dedicated to what's going on there, including with activists who have traveled from Palestine to attend Manifiesta. And those were, so from the Bisan Center for Research, which was recently targeted by the Israeli occupying forces for the important work that it did during the COVID-19 pandemic. But also Ahed Tamimi, who is a youth activist quite well known for her activism around Palestine, and then the representatives of the BDS movement in Europe, which were there, to point out how important it was for activists from Europe to get involved in the BDS movement and support the Palestinian cause that way. And then the number of debates that came from the trade unions touched upon a range of topics. So we've seen trade unionists discuss how they can stand up to the rise of the right in Europe, but also to see what kind of solidarity they can build and fight against the attack on workers' rights, which workers all around Europe have been facing for the past months.
Okay, Anna. Anna, can you also, it seems as if healthcare was one of the, very important parts of these meetings. Could you describe what was discussed, what are the major issues and what are the plans?
Yeah, of course. So essentially, as there had been a pillar on the trade union involvement and on women's rights and on Palestine, so there was a pillar dedicated only to healthcare, and this was co-organized by a number of Belgian organizations, including Medics for the People, who do a very important job in providing primary healthcare to people who otherwise could not have so much access to it. And Viva Salud, which is an organization that works internationally and supports the right to health in the Philippines and in Palestine included. And essentially, what they wanted to do is sparking the discussion around the different problems that healthcare is facing at the moment. So they started from discussing the availability and the training of general practitioners in Belgium, which is becoming an increasingly great problem because of the strict quotas that are imposed on the profession, but also on the requirements that are put forward for entering medical school, and which limit participation and the number of students that could become doctors and help support the health system that way. But there were also discussions which focused on something that's been very visible these days, and that's building a public alternative to the pharma policies that we've been exposed to before and during the COVID-19 pandemic, which was a very important discussion because we've seen that Medics for the People has a very serious plan in sparking up the building of such an alternative, and is already making quite concrete plans, has made quite concrete plans in its visioning document. And then at the end, another discussion which took place was dedicated to the health of workers. And this included inputs by trade unionists who have experienced their health deteriorating in the workplace because they had no access to proper conditions, and they were also discarded, let's put it that way, by employers once they've seen that they are not quite physically able to do the work anymore. So this is something that has been swept under the rug for quite a bit of time, not only in Belgium, but in other places as well, of course. And Medics for the People is also putting quite a bit of effort in making this problem more visible and insisting that it is actually the employers who should bear the responsibility for the bad health of workers if the working conditions caused illnesses.
All right, Anna, thanks a lot for those updates. The higher his properties were valued at, the more tax breaks he could get. Former United States President Donald Trump has been charged with using this simple tax break available in the United States but fraudulently. According to New York Attorney General Letitia James, Trump inflated the value of his properties using what are called conservation easements, a kind of lease, to gain tax benefits of up to $250 million. But the easement allegations are only part of the overall fraud case being built up against Trump. We spoke to Anish about the case and its fallout. Hi Anish, does it look like Trump's financial dealings are finally coming to the fore? They're being revealed. What's really the expose so far that we have?
Well, a large part of Trump's the case, the lawsuit right now, and Trump's claims, if we combine them together, it shows how easy it is for the rich to actually get away with a large part of their taxes. And so what Trump did is basically, undervalue, as you pointed out, undervalue his large part of his property, claimed close to $250 million in taxes, tax refunds over the years, and that actually is the main crux of the issue. We are not getting a complete detailed account of his tax returns over the past decade, actually. In fact, that was one of the major issues that came up in the last two presidential elections when he contested, and it was pointed out that he has never made his tax records public, or his corporation's tax records public. Now the issue is that the thing is that with it is not just a fine that Letitia James is asking for. She's also calling for banning Trump and his family members, including his children, from sitting in board or directories of major corporations in New York City, and that in fact can affect his his business acumen and his capabilities which is mostly based out of New York at this point. So in this case, we need to really wait and watch how it unfolds. But it is really, the focus right now is coming on the manner in which it is quite easy for the rich to overvalue their properties and get tax refunds or tax breaks on it. And this is something that obviously lawmakers have been talking about cracking down on, but has never happened.
So, Anish, is it that the current investigation into Trump's dealings is revealing some kind of fraud? What do we know so far?
What we know as of now is the manner in which Trump has committed, well, let's just say allegedly a tax fraud through his properties in New York right now. Over the years, actually, and claimed about $250 million in tax breaks. This only shows how easy it is for property owners, landowners, even massive corporations in New York, and not just in New York, but across the country, to claim tax breaks through such fraudulent methods, which often happens. Let's remember that in many of these cases, it often happens in a sort of syndicated, overvaluing of properties that gives them tax breaks. Most of the time, it includes a whole host of people, which includes even property realtors and evaluators, and that's where the tax breaks then get shared kind of in a manner. Trump did not go through that. He did it pretty much on his own. His corporation did pretty much on his own, of overvaluing his properties to gain a lot of these conservation breaks that happen. Now, the thing is, the manner in which it unfolds remains to be seen. Obviously, it is just, the charges have just been laid, and it is a civil charge. We do not know if a criminal charge will be slapped on him over the next few months. We also do not know how it is going to be taken in the court, because Letitia James does not want to put a full stop on just having a fine put on Trump Corporation, but also wants to go ahead and ban members of the Trump family, including not just Donald Trump, but also his children, from sitting in any board of any of the corporations in New York. And that can actually affect their business deals and everything, considering the fact that much of Trump Group's business is based out of New York. So it remains to be, we need to really wait and watch, but the focus right now is on how it becomes so easy for a lot of Trump is just one of the examples. It's just the tip of the iceberg, so to say, on a whole host of kind of frauds that actually happen and that are pretty much legal in most ways, and is quite easy to be done in the United States right now.
Right, a businessman, but also a politician and a former president of the United States. So, is there a kind of political one-upmanship here? What can we expect from either side?
I mean, definitely the fact that the midterms are coming right now is affecting a lot of these charges that are now coming up against Trump. The kind of heat that not just Biden administration, but also state administrations that are led by Democratic Party is pursuing against Trump shows that there is definitely a political angle to it. How it will affect not just his chances, but his party's chances in the upcoming midterms is very hard to gauge. Opinion polling is showing quite a close race. Some opinion polling, some experts are already saying that it will be very difficult for the Democrats to hold on to their majority in the Congress. So we do not know how it is going to happen. Obviously, opinion polls have gone wrong because United States still uses the first past the post sort of system, where it is no matter what your voting percentages are, can still lose an election even if you get a plurality. So that is how things run over there, and we cannot really gauge the amount of difference this particular set of charges are going to make. We know for sure that all that talk about Trump not only hiding his tax returns but also evading taxes during the last two elections did not make much of a difference. But but it is definitely putting a heat on him, and obviously over the years, if he gets slapped with criminal charges, it is going to be very difficult for him to contest elections in the future.
Right, Anish. Thanks a lot for joining us. And that is all we have for you today. Thank you for watching Daily Debrief. We look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. For more stories like these, visit our website peoplesdispatch.org and follow us on Twitter, Facebook and Instagram for regular updates.